God?
Oh!
You know God's decree.
Oh!
Those that practice unnatural sex with men deserve to die!
The original play that the film was based on was a short one-act written by Spencer Griffin. And he had done many plays before that dealt with controversial subject matter. Like he did a play that was on AIDS. And I got a chance to see it while I was working on another one-act. And I was amazed at the subject matter and how he was able to do a play about homophobia and hate crimes, yet still have like a comedic tone to it, and still make that work, and make it plausible, and make it realistic. That was something that I instantly gravitated towards, and I've been wanting to make a short film for quite a long time, yet I could not find the proper subject matter. Once I saw By the Book, the Spencer Griffin play, I knew that was, once I saw it, I knew I had to make it. Doing an adaptation is quite different from writing your own script. And if any screenwriter would know this, you're messing around with characters that have already been developed. It's someone else's story. Yet, with a play, I wanted to take True Words out of the basement as much as possible, and that's why I added in the beginning, where you see TP at Dolls, and then quite a few times whenever they're talking about stories, try to actually go to the location of the story, like a video update, for example. All those scenes, they didn't exist in the play, and I wanted to try and get it out of the basement. I also felt that there's some characters that didn't quite have a fit characterization, and so I wanted to be able to clearly define characters and make, for example, TP, he was just sort of another kid and just another friend in the play. I kind of wanted to make him, he was being manipulated by his friends, and they were using him to get alcohol, and he really wasn't the coolest of characters. So I guess the biggest thing about doing an adaptation is, again, trying to stay faithful to it, but still not wanting to shoot exactly what was written for the stage, because that just wouldn't work. I decided to make True Words because I just fell in love with the subject matter. I was interested in, I still am interested in civil rights, and I am still shocked at how the world portrays homosexuals, and they just portray them in this dark light. And as of now, they still can't get married in the United States, and a lot of people aren't very welcoming towards them. And I just wanted to make this film not as like an account of what will happen always if someone were to come out to his friends. I hope that people don't think that, because that is not what's going to happen. I wanted people to realize, who are straight and who are homophobic, what their actions could lead to. That there is violence that is within them. There's just this strong feeling of intolerance that needs to be dealt with before it's too late. Casting for True Words was an interesting endeavor, to say the least. Originally, I had approached every cast member of By the Book when they were done with the play, and most of them were like, well, I already did it, I don't really want to do it again. However, the only person that really was interested was the actor who played Chris, and his name is Jake Boma, and he plays Chris in the play, or in the film, however. And so I had one person casted, and I think that was one of the hardest people to actually get cast. So then I went to others, and I have a friend that was in drama, in the drama department with me, and his name was Chris Klein. I had done some one acts with him, and we had grown to be good friends. And so I immediately wanted to cast him as TP. I was trying to make Paul, the character of Paul, a little bit more interested in music, because he keeps talking about Rick Springfield, and he starts singing Hold My Hand about halfway in the film. So I started looking around for members of bands and try to get them to see if there's anyone who would be interested. And fortunately enough, I found Chris Saldana, and he was in the band 8 Miles Out, who later we got to do the music for the film, and he agreed to do it. And so I was left with Jude, and I had no idea. I knew that I wanted him to be someone who would be funny, who had a good physical presence of comedy, who would be able to deliver the lines, and then when the time comes, he would have to be a very threatening and imposing character. And I had no idea who to choose. I was completely lost. And I started asking cast members if they knew of anyone. And Chris Klein was the one who came up to me and said, well, you know, there's this one guy that I know, and he's on the football team. He's a really nice guy. I mean, I know that you will be able to get him to be able to do most of it, but again, we weren't sure if he would be able to deliver towards the end. So I asked him if he would do it, and his name was Adam Strader, and he agreed. The big thing that he was afraid of was not being able to deliver the lines and not being able to remember the lines at all times, because he had never been an actor before. So I came over to his house a couple of times. I worked through the script with him, and we always never really talked about the end. I would always give him scenarios of what to think about and kind of how I wanted him to be portrayed, but I always wanted to save that energy for the end. And we had saved shooting that scene for the ending, like at the end of production, and I was amazed at what came out. And I figured that this movie would not be as good as it is without the strong cast that it has. The biggest location that we used for the production of True Words was in the basement of the producer. And I really didn't know where we could shoot, because I would always have it in mind where this could be, yet I never really knew where the location would be. And so I went to visit Peter Riley, and for the first time I went down into his basement, and it gave the proper sense of being warm and welcoming, which is perfect for the beginning, and then slowly start to change into being kind of this prison with the white brick, and just I thought it worked perfectly. And so we went in through with some set design. It wasn't exact. We didn't shoot it exactly how it looked. We had to move some furniture around, take some furniture out. We actually built a coffee table that was actually just made out of a few 2x4s and one of those recycling bins. We just put some vice clamps on them, put it right on the set, and that was our table. We searched around at many different antique stores and garage sales. Didn't really see anything, so we just built our own. The production of True Words was very off and on. Again, we had the scheduling conflicts, so people were often, they had jobs, or they had, like Strader for instance, he had a football camp that he had to go through in the morning. And actually some people were taking vacations and trips and were leaving for a few days at a time. And so there's many scenes that characters are talking to each other when they're actually not talking to anyone at all. And we purposely frame them out of the shot and make close-ups so that we don't see the other person. Very few times were there actually everybody there on the day. And pretty much any time that everyone was there on the day, we made sure that they were all in the frame. And so the actual production of True Words took about 3 weeks to a month. to be able to shoot this, and we really didn't know what we were doing. So anything that we could shoot, we shot. And I have about 8 hours of footage for this film that ultimately got cut down to 35 minutes. Post-production on True Words was a very, very arduous task, to say the very least, because nowadays you can just use Final Cut and all these other editing software programs like Adobe Premiere, and from your home computer just easily cut together a film that would have, you know, all the transitions, multiple audio tracks, make it very, very simple and very easy. However, at the time I was doing True Words, I didn't have any of that. All that I had was basically a very cheap software program that I had that basically was used by families to put together home videos. And so I could only do about 7-minute clips at a time, and I couldn't change the audio. So anytime that I wanted audio in a shot or in a sequence, I had to edit the film that I wanted it to be, edit the scene, print that to tape, and then patch it through to an analog soundboard that I just bought for like about $100 at Best Buy, patched in a second audio track from a CD player into the VCR, and then when I was done with that and had it exactly the way I wanted it to, then I patched the camcorder back into the VCR and recorded that and put it back into the computer. So anytime that I had to add a sound effect or add music, there was a massive loss of generation. The picture looked horrible whenever I had to put in music, and you could see exactly when I had to put in music. You would just see that look, and it just turned grainy. It looked horrible, and that was one of the big reasons why I wanted to go back and redo the film, re-edit it, is to make it look good and make it the way that I wanted it to. And unfortunately, the computer that I was using wasn't able to hold all this data that I needed, and it crashed in October when I was working on this film. And at that point I started thinking, I can't make this film anymore. It's too much. I can't do it. I can't edit it. It's taking way too much time. I thought it was only going to take a week because I was just very ignorant to what editing truly was. And I just got very depressed, and I thought, well, here goes the dream that I had of making my first short film and making it well and making it look better than all the other short films that high school students had made. Yet everyone, my friends, my family, they coaxed me into continuing the work, and we got the computer working again. Unfortunately I didn't lose all the stuff I had worked on, and I just kept going and finally got it done and ready for the premiere, which was on December 7th, 2001. Let's just see if we can get some publicity on this. So I contacted a writer, a reporter with the Des Moines Register, and she came in and interviewed us, and she wrote this article that was talking about, you know, high school students making this film about homophobia and intolerance. And then instantly I got a call that night as soon as the article ran from the First Friday Breakfast Club, which is a group of local businessmen who are openly gay in the community of Des Moines. And they wanted me to come in and talk with them, give a presentation and a speech that Friday, which was the morning before the premiere. And I just figured I would go for it, because, I mean, when's the next time that this is going to occur? So I went there, I gave my speech, and I left early because I had to go to class. I had actually missed my first 2 periods of class just to go to this. And what I found out later was Chief Justice Louis Alvarado of Iowa, apparently right after I left, he went up on stage and said, well, you know, if there's more young kids like that, then the world is in a safe place, in safe hands. I I was just a kid. I just wanted to make movies. And yet, the idea that someone went out and made a short film who was a high school student about intolerance and how they're tired of it touched a lot of people. And I just thought that we were going to have friends and family go to this screening. Yet, the first premiere, which was the first screening, there's just this room that only had like room for like 60 people, and there was like 120. There were 60 people that were standing in the back of the room to watch my movie. That was amazing for just a young kid, for his first short film, which he figured he would just show to friends and family, to see that it's actually touching the lives of people that he had never met. I've never met any of these people that I never knew of in the school, who had heard about it, went to see it, went to support me, and many people went multiple times. We had 4 screenings, and the last screening that we had 60 people in it. We lost 20 people with each screening, but we had about 300 total that showed up. I figured we wouldn't have nearly that much. I was amazed. Originally, when I was making the DVD, this was a project of mine for 3 years after making True Words for the first time. I just wanted to make a DVD. I figured that it would be the end of the project. I could put it behind me, go back, work on everything else. And there had always been problems with the film that I had made, that I had edited originally, not in tone or in the story, just with the technical limitations that I had. And I always felt that it took people out of the story and took people out of the realism of the moment, of these actors who had worked so hard to perform in front of the camera, and it felt like I had let them down, because all the work that they put into it now didn't mean anything because the picture looked so bad. And so in order to give my due respect to the actors that had worked so hard on this, and to make the movie that I had wanted to at the beginning, I wanted to go back and go to the source material that I had, all 8 hours, which luckily I found. I set out to make the movie that I knew I could make when I was younger, yet didn't have the expertise, and I didn't have the technology to be able to do it. And so it was a rare gift, and one that I could never have done, 10, 20 years ago, to go back and re-edit a film that I had made, and to make it look so much better than it had been before, which is testament to the technology that is available to young filmmakers out there. The experience that I had on True Words, I could never give up for anything. It was hard work. It showed what it takes to be able to do films, and I learned a lot from it. I probably wouldn't be making the films I make today if I hadn't made it, and if I hadn't had that experience. There's something about film that each time you see it, it's the exact same thing that you had seen before, yet you can look into it different ways. And to see how a film can affect people, especially with a story about intolerance like True Words is, there's nothing that can compare to that. Not to say that my film will change the world, or that my film is the most important film ever made by myself or of any other person. I just wanted to make a film that people could recognize and start to change their own views about the words that they use, and to realize that what they say has meaning and can affect people. Because, I mean, anyone can go out and say, oh, that's gay, or, oh God, that guy's acting queer. And I had heard that when I was in high school, and, I mean, I'm not a gay man, yet I have known people who are gay, and I've seen how, like, that language can affect them, and how they'll hide it and pretend that it doesn't hurt them, but you know it does. It's just people who are ignorant to the plight of others, and just sort of feeling that, oh, it's just a joke. Well, if it starts out as a joke, but you're really showing that you're intolerant of other people, that's just a horrible place to go. And I hope that people that see this film will realize what can happen, and hopefully change their thoughts and change the way that they act around others.